let me introduce Akemi and Hideaki. Akemi Yonemura has worked for UNESCO for about 20 years and as an education program specialist in Paris, New Delhi, Addis Ababa, and Dakar, promoting the right to education in general, but also specific topics such as peace education and education for sustainable development. And she's a native of Hiroshima. So she was very concerned about the radiation effects and has been engaging in this subject. And she became a promoter of this movie, Silent Fallout. She is a professor of International Development at Kansai Gaidai University in Osaka, Japan. And she's been a CIES member for over 2 decades. So we're really so pleased, Akemi, that you submitted the movie to the Film Festivalette. Thank you for doing that. It was such a moving, compelling film. I'm not sure if Hideaki is understanding me, that I'm introducing
伊
you.
藤さん、今の大体わかりましたか？
なんとなく、はい、わかりました。はい。
No, he understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now I'd like to introduce Hideaki-Ito. Is that the right way to pronounce his name? Or am I
生
Hideaki?
の発音
Yeah.
大丈夫ですか？
Can you say
は
the
い、大
right
丈夫です。
Yeah?
秀
Okay.
明。
Okay.
は
And
い
I found very interesting, Hideaki, that in 2000, he left his job as a kindergarten teacher to enter the world of television. In 2012 and 2015, he released the movie series X Years Later in theaters. And in 2023, he produced the movie Silent Fallout. So this is a very recent film, came out last year. He has won Japan's Art Encouragement Prize for New Artists, the Japan National Press Club Special Award, the Galaxy Award Grand Prize, and the Japan Commercial Broadcasting Federation Award Grand Prize. He is also the author of the book X Years After Exposure to Radiation. So he's been working on this subject also from the perspective of his book. So thank you again to both of you. This is our 3rd live session in this year's Festivalette.
伊藤さん、これが3回目のこのようなイベントだそうです。
はい。Yes. Okay.
And it's, as you know, it's being recorded and it will be uploaded online as well for those that couldn't join us. So usually the way that these sessions work is we have a few questions that I, as the co-curator and co-director of the Festivalette, pose to our special guests, and then we'll open it up to a wider discussion for all those that joined. So please also, if you'd like to ask questions of Akemi and Hideaki, please prepare them. And I would like to start with Akemi. Akemi, could you tell us more about how you got involved in this movie that, of course, is of such importance to Japan and to the world in terms of the issue of nuclear radiation, especially in this current context where we know that Russia has been threatening with nuclear warfare. China is increasing its arsenal. I read recently that the US is thinking about expanding. So we're moving from cuts, right, to this idea of reducing and eliminating nuclear arsenals to now possibly increasing them. And there's so it's really quite frightening. And, you know, I think we'd all like to think that this isn't behind us, right? But unfortunately, it's not completely behind us. So Akemi, how did you get involved with this movie? Please tell us more about how you met Hideaki, why you think that this is important to bring to educators at CIES.
伊藤さん、今ちょっと聞かれたのは、なんで私がこの映画について知ったかということを話してくださいということです。So I got to know because early this year, I saw this film in Japan, in Kobe, and then I was very impressed, and it's very moving, and then it has a lot of factual things, interviewing many American people who got affected by nuclear testings. And then Mr. Ito was asking for help to the audience. And then he was talking about SDGs. And then I was involved in SDGs. And then I've been working on policy issue. So I approached him if I could do something. And then I went to see him. He is living in Shikoku. It's another island, and I went there and spent some time, exchanged some ideas. So he was planning a US tour this year. He did, 伊藤さん何日ぐらいでした40日、50日でした。アメリカ。
撮影ですよね。
はい。
撮影撮影は40日
じゃなくて、今回のアメリカツアー何日ぐらいでした
ツアーは43日で20カ所ですね。
So this year, in July, starting in July, and then more than 40 days, he did American tour and visiting 20 places, starting from the East Coast to the West Coast. And that's how I got involved. And also, he talked about 2 other films before making this film, which was, you read out about this film. So he made a TV program and then also films about hydrogen bomb effects in the Pacific Island. And so he has been following this issue more than 20 years. And then he documented it, and he has a lot of research. And I was moved by his commitment to this one particular issue to inform, particularly this time, American people about the radiation contamination, which most people don't know about. And as you mentioned, it's really timely. So I thought it's very, very important we don't have any time to waste. That's how I got to know him, and I wanted to help him. And then that's why I saw this film festival, and I thought that this may be another good opportunity to inform educators, because educators have their own the constituencies, and expand to the ordinary audience. Our ordinary audience is usually somebody activist, but we have to go beyond that to the ordinary people. 伊藤さん、なんでこの会に入ったかということなんですけど、この会は教育者の協会なんですけれども、アソシエーションなんですけれども、いつも私たちがこういった核兵器の話とかしているのは、アクティビストとかもこういうことに興味のある人が見に来るのが多いので、そうじゃなく普通の全然興味のない人、つまり教育者とか、そういった人にリーチアウトをするのが大切だと思って、この機会にアプライしたというふうに言いました。
はい。わかりました。
And Hideaki, can you tell us more about your process for making the movie? Like after writing the book, what led you towards making the film, and what was the process for that?
本を書いた後のプロセス、映画を作るまでのプロセスを教えてください。
そうか。なんか、こんなちょっと打ち合わせしたみたいに、最初に僕、スピーチをするっていうふうに思ってたけど、もうなくていいんですね。そしたら、
どっちでもいいですよ。
いや、
he
そうだね。
has prepared some talk, so he can deliver his thought about making this film. Probably that includes his the initial motivation to make this film. So shall I ask him to read his speech? じゃあ伊藤さんお願いします。
ちょっと最初聞きたいんですけど、ここにいらっしゃる皆さんは、まず映画をご覧になってますかってちょっと聞きたい。どれぐらい
He wants to know if everybody in this room has already seen the film.
皆さん見てます。
And people maybe write that into the chat. Just you could write yes, no, yes, no, and then
Or
we'll have
maybe raise hand or
raise hands if you know how to do that. Whatever's easier, and we can check both.
なんで聞いたかというと、映画を見てないと、今から話すことっていうのが、陰謀論にしか聞こえないので、ちょっとそれを確認した上でお話ししようかなと思ったんですね。
he prepared some speech, but if people haven't seen the movie, they may misunderstood what he's talking about, may be taken as a conspiracy theory.
The people that have written so far or have raised their hand are all saying yes. There's some people that haven't raised their hand or said yes. So there might be a mix of people that have watched and some people that have not.
見てると人と見てない人が両方います。
わかりました。じゃあ半分ぐらいの人は陰謀論だと思うかもしれませんから、ちょっと。
Some people may think it's a conspiracy theory, but he will start.
はい。で、今からスピーチするのは、僕、英語でスピーチしますが、8月6日ですね、広島に原爆が投下された日に、今年ですね、今年の8月6日に、ローレンス・リバモア国立研究所での抗議活動に参加して、その時に、スピーチした内容を、今から読みます。
So he's going to read the speech on August 6th in the Lawrence River. What's the name of the place?
ローレンス・リバモア国立研究所。はい、
Rivermore National Park. He made a speech. So it's the same speech, which was read on August 6th. That's the date that the Hiroshima bomb was dropped.
はい、ものすごい下手な英語ですので、ちょっと聞いてください。
So he's very modest about his English, but I think it's going to be okay.
はい、
So please.
Okay. I made this film to tell the truth, which is that the US government developed nuclear weapons at the expense of American lives. The US government conducted 101 above-ground atomic bomb testings, which spread radioactive pollution throughout the American continent. Your government was aware of it, but never informed the American people about it. And I'm sorry to inform you that everyone in this place got exposed to radiation as a result. I want you to understand that you have been victims of nuclear bombs. I believe it is critical to understand that you have been personally involved in the nuclear issue. I would like you to understand that nuclear weapons were developed in exchange for your and your family's health and lives. 20 years ago, I began researching Japanese tuna fishermen who had been exposed to radiation from over 100 hydrogen bomb testings in the Pacific Ocean. Tens of thousands of fishermen were irradiated as they caught tuna near testing sites. Today, most Japanese people don't know about this catastrophic incident. I also discovered that the nuclear testing had an impact on the American continent. The US government began nuclear testings in 1951 and completed 929 tests. There were 101 overground tests and 828 underground tests. However, some citizens prevented the above-ground nuclear test. They were the women who were concerned about the radioactive effects on their children. If those women had not acted on the radioactive pollution and 828 nuclear testings occurred above ground, this country would have been too radioactive for any life form to survive. I believe those women's activities were the most significant demonstration in the US history. Also, most Americans are unaware of them. They are genuine unsung heroes. What is more essential than the life of our children? I am deeply proud of those women as a human being. Foreign policies can be linked to cultural, economic, and even militaristic concerns. However, I believe that human lives should be prioritized above all. The United States government created nuclear weapons in exchanges for the health and the lives of your people. The nuclear weapons are supposed to safeguard your country. But with the nuclear weapons that jeopardize your health and lives, what exactly are your protectives? This is my question, not only to the Americans, but to all other nuclear arms countries. I hope that everyone discuss this topic with your families and friends in their communities and in the US Congress. I believe that another demonstration will take place to defend our children's health and life, just like those mothers did on the nuclear issue 16 years ago. I believe in miracles. Let us protect our earth for our children who will live in the 22nd century. That is our duty. Thank you. 読めた。よかった。
Yes, it is very, very powerful words, and thank you so much for your film. I was so touched by it, and of course worried by it and stunned by it. I'll let you translate. I don't know if he's understanding me, Akemi.
とても心が動かされましたということです。
ありがとう。Thank you.
Yes. And it's unreal, right? That when you say it's a conspiracy theory because it's so contradictory and unreal that this could have happened, because they knew what the effects were. It wasn't a lack of information.
陰謀論じゃなくってこのことは本当に起きる可能性があったのをこう変えたっていうことは本当に良かったと思います。
はい。
And I also admire these women so much, also as a mother and a woman. And I would love to know more about the role also that schools played and teachers, because I know from the movie that it was crucial. The baby teeth had to be collected, and what I understand is that it was somewhat dangerous, right? Because they were being accused of being communist, but still so many people contributed, right? Despite the risks, despite possibly the social, cultural looking down upon it, right?
集めるとき、入試を集めるときに学校が担った役割というのはありますかっていうのはそういうことをしていると陰謀論と言われたりコミュニスト共産主義と言われたりするリスクがあったんじゃないかということで、学校が担った影響っていう担った役割っていうのはありますか？
ですね。これについては、最も大切なことは、ルイーズ・ライスさんっていう、女性医師ですけども、女性たちの活動だったことがすごく大きいと思います。で、女性たちは、呼びかけをしたのは学 校、それから歯科医ですね、お医者さん、歯医者さんですね。それからいろんな団体に対して声をかけて、で、子供たちが、アメリカ全土の子供たちが被爆していることを懸念して、そのことを証明しようということをお話をしました。ですので、その時にはそういう共産主義ということではなく、みんなが子供たちが被爆してはいけないという思いで、協力をしたということが、当時の資料に書かれています。
So when he read the document of that time, he thought the most important role was played by Louise Rice and women's activism. And they first talked to school and then dentists and other bodies throughout the country. And they emphasized the health of children. And they never encounter the reaction being called a communist that time.
やっぱり、さっきもね、ロシアと中国が核兵器を持ってるから、アメリカもとか、それから、アメリカの国内の、そういう、核というものにくづいても、まあ、さらに増えていこうとしているって話あったんですけども、僕の考えなんですけども、核兵器を持つか持たないかという議論の場に乗るということを僕はやめないといけないと思うんです。で、核兵器を持つ持たないということについて議論をする前の段階で、アメリカの国民が皆その被爆をさせられていると。で、アメリカの人たちが、皆被爆者であるという当事者意識を持って、そのことを政府から知らされてないということについて、まず、議論をすることが大切だと思います。それは核兵器を持つという段階でアメリカ全土が被害を受けてるんだということをまず認識して議論をすることが先だと。その後に持つ持たないを判断するということがすごく大切だと考えています。
So he thinks that before the discussion of having nuclear weapons or not by Russia and China versus the US, before he thinks most important thing is to let the American people know that everybody is exposed to radiation, and then everybody has the right to get this information, and then the government hasn't told them the truth. So he believes getting this information exposed to the radiation is the first step before the discussion about we should have nuclear weapons or not.
核兵器を持つと判断する場合というのは、こういうふうに言ってほしいんです。それは、私は核兵器を持つことに賛成します。だから、自分の子供も、妻や夫や家族の命もその代わりに差し出しますというふうに言った上で核兵器を持つということが大切です。
So if somebody wants to say, well, I'm supporting the idea of having nuclear weapons, then he wants to hear from that person that he agrees to expose their spouse and children or the family members to radiation.
だから、はい。まずその議論をするためには、アメリカの人たちが被爆者で全員が被爆しているという事実を知らなければなりません。
So he is emphasizing that all Americans are already exposed to radiation.
当事者意識を持つことが、全てのスタートだと僕は思って、この映画を作ってアメリカで、映画を通して事実を伝えようとしています。
He made this film to let the people know that the starting point is to know that everybody has been already exposed to radiation.
これは、最後、これは右でも左でもなく、政治的ではなく、純粋な事実を伝えるという作業です。
This is not the ideology of a left or a right or a political issue, but he just simply wants to let the people know people know about this fact.
Yes, it's quite frightening. Having lots of family members also living in the U.S. and having lived in the U.S., it reframes everything. And also so many other places around the world, right? Not just the U.S. So many other people have also been exposed in other parts of the world.
アメリカ人だけじゃなくても
In
世
addition to
界中
Japan.
が、もう、被爆していますということを考えると、とても怖いです。
そうですね。だからこの被爆の問題というのは、SDGs のことあんまり知らないのかもしれないですけど、SDGs の、最も環境汚染としてトップに、挙げられなければならない、環境問題だと。そういう捉え方をしなければなりません。ただ、目にも見えないし、匂いもしないし、気がつかないままに、全世界の人たちが被害を受けてしまっているということになります。
So he wants to put this radiation poisoning as the top priority on the SDGs environmental issue, but the radiation doesn't have the color, you can't see it, you can't smell it, so people don't know. Everybody has been already exposed.
Okay. Let's open it up to some questions from the audience. I see there's several people here saying there's somebody from the Ministry of Education in Mozambique. We also have somebody listening from South Sudan, Malawi, Switzerland. So we have great participation from different parts of the world, not just from the US. Does anybody have a question that they'd like to ask of Akemi or Hideaki?
I can start, Adriana, if people are still thinking of questions.
Thank you, Hugh.
Hideaki-san, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate both the, I think the activism of your introduction and the message of the movie. I think it is profound for our times now, but also has significant implications for education, formal education in schools and universities, but also the education of whole populations, which is why you make your point. I think there seems to me a great irony for me that the populations that have suffered most from nuclear weapons and testing are, of course, Japan, is where the 2 bombs were dropped. But after that, perhaps America, the country that developed these weapons. I think that is a warning for everyone, and has a very powerful message, as you say. I have a short question about education, Akemi, but perhaps you would just translate a few of those points. I think Hideaki might have got some of it.
Okay, so このアクティビズムということとメッセージがとても今の時代にふさわしいものでとても心が動かされましたということです。で、このグループは教育のグループなんですけれども、フォーマルエデュケーション、学校教育だけじゃなくって、学校に行ってない人すべてに関わる教育という意味で映画の意味がとてもあると思います。で、日本っていうのは、2つ原爆を落とされて一番苦しんだ、国であって、でも今アメリカ人もこういったことに気がつかないといけないということをそういったメッセージを伝えてもらいました。今まで言われたことのサマリーだと思いますが、質問がこれからあります。So your question?
So the question is obviously about education. I was interested that you came from an education background. I was really pleased to see, even though the movie wasn't about education in the formal sense, it has very deep implications. I loved seeing the way that teachers responded to the message. Teachers and moms, of course, often go together, but respond to the significance of the danger of radiation to children and families. But I think the question is, obviously, we all want truth in our education systems, and that governments see this truth as a threat more and more. But how do you think we need to organize for this? I mean, we should clearly be teaching about it, but I think it raises a lot of questions about how we should be teaching about truth and teach children and to question in our education systems. So I just wondered what your thoughts are about the education messages in the film.
教育のメッセージ、映画の中に入っている教育のメッセージということを知りたいということで、具体的に、映画の中では先生とかお母さんたちが立ち上がったけれども、実際に教えていくときに、その教育制度というところにどうやって入れてどうやって教えていったらいいと思いますか？この、危険なものに関して教える、この事実を教えるっていうところをどうやって伝えたらいいですか？
はい。まず、僕もアメリカのツアーをするときに、いろんな方から言われました。それは、アメリカという国は、軍事産業によって、国家が成り立っているということもあって、メディアも含めて、基本的には、この軍事産業というものに影響のあるような、言論というのは、かなり厳しく、抑圧されるだろうというふうに聞きました。
When he was making the US tour this summer, he was told by many people that the US industry is based on military industry, and then there is a media control. So it's really difficult to address this issue.
なので、教育という現場も、同じような、抑圧、圧力というものがあるだろうというふうに考えます。これはでも日本でも同じことが言えます。
So therefore, he thinks education is also being pressured, not being able to tell the truth. And then it's the same thing in Japan as well.
で、僕はその事実を伝えるということについて、これ本当難しいところなんですけども、例えば子どもたち、それから両親に受け入れられるような方法を工夫しながら事実を伝えていくということが、すごく大切だと思います。じゃないと、過激な事実というのは、厳しい事実というのは、やはり反論されていくということがあるので、そこについての工夫というのはすごく大切だと思っています。
So he has to find a very effective way to get this message to children and then their parents. Otherwise, very shocking truth may not be able to be accepted so easily.
例えば、先ほど日本に2個の原爆が投下されたというふうに言いましたが、アメリカは101個の原爆が投下された国です。
You said just now that the 2 atomic bombs were dropped on Japan, but on the US land, 101 atomic bombs were dropped.
そのことをアメリカの人たちがどれほど知っているでしょうか？
How many Americans know about this fact?
これは、イデオロギーではなく事実です。
This is not ideology, but this is a fact.
その事実を、どう伝えるかってことは、教育現場で工夫をしていく必要があると思います。
He thinks in the US education system, educators have to find a way how to teach this fact.
それともう一つ、今回、全米をツアーをしたときに、様々な被爆者の方たちに会いました。本当にたくさんの種類の被爆者がアメリカに存在します。
And then during his American tour this summer, he met with the various kinds of nuclear survivors.
そのことを、アメリカの人たちは歴史として知るべきです。
He thinks American educators should know this fact that the American testing has been exposed to various kinds of American people. So
で、
that's the educator's role.
sorry. 僕は、例えば、ナバホの人たちの被爆のことを知ってもらいたいです。それから、マーシャル諸島の人たちの被爆も知ってもらいたいです。でそれから、各地にある、マンハッタン計画に関わった、ウランの生成所の風下の人たちの被爆も知ってもらいたい。それから、ネバダ核実験による、風下の人たちのことも知ってもらいたい。たくさんの、事実をアメリカの人たちは学ばなければならないと考えています。
He thinks American should know about the people who are exposed to radiation in Navajo and Marshall Island, and people who are involved in Manhattan Project, processing the uranium and Nevada testing. So all of them were exposed.
最後に一つ言わせてください。僕の体験を話させてください。
So he wants to talk about his own experience.
ハーバード大学の環境研究所の中の放射線の専門チームと僕はミーティングをする機会を得ました。
He met with the expert in Harvard University on environmental research and radiation research group.
僕は彼らに水爆実験によるフォールアウトによってアメリカ全土が何度も何度も被爆をしているということについてレクチャーを受けようと思いました。
He wanted to have a lecture from them about the fallout caused by hydrogen bomb in the Pacific.
で、アメリカ原子力委員会の文書で、にあるその広がりのデータを僕はラップトップで彼らに見てもらいました。
He showed in his laptop the fallout went to the U.S. Land, the fallout from the Pacific bombing, the hydrogen testing went into the American land.
その地図を見た瞬間、彼らが言った言葉は何かというと、Oh my God でした。
So the word when these researchers at Harvard University said, "Oh my God."
僕は彼らのその Oh my God に Oh my God でした。
So he said, "Oh my God," as a reaction to their "Oh my God." So
専門家が知らないんだったら、アメリカの人たちは誰も知らないんだということに驚愕しました。本当驚きました。
He was very surprised that the researchers, the experts, didn't know about the American contamination caused by Pacific testing.
知らされるべきです。
He really thinks that all the Americans should be exposed. I mean, all Americans should know this fact.
Yes, it's quite shocking how little is known about it, even to the researchers that should know, right? There's a question here in the chat. Is it possible that nuclear bombs release radiation even before being exploded?
核爆弾っていうのは爆発する前からも放射能汚染をすることがありますか？
原材料そのものが放射線を出しているので、強烈な放射線を出しているので、爆発する前も非常に危険です。
So even before the explosion, it's extremely dangerous because it has a radiation. It's emitting radiation.
はい、ウラン鉱山でたくさんの人が死んでます。
A lot of people died at the uranium mining spots.
Okay. Thank you. And Norbert, do you have a question? I see your hand, but I'm not sure if that's from before about
Yes,
watching.
can you hear me, Adriana?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Good to see you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much, Hideaki-Ito, for this film. I'm representing Central Asia, and I think, you know, during Soviet Union, we had about 456 nuclear tests in Semipalatinsk in Kazakhstan. At that time, it was part of the Soviet Union. And your film actually brought, you know, made me really think about, you know, the effects of, because we usually thought that it's actually only people around Semipalatinsk and Semipalatinsk that are affected, but actually it goes beyond the borders. And when I looked at your map in the film, you know, for in the Pacific and in the States, it went 1,000 miles away. So, and it's still, you know, it's still a question what effect we had actually in our region from Semipalatinsk nuclear testing. So, you know, it's more of a comment rather than a question. I think looking at your film, it really brings a value of, now we talk a lot about climate change education, but you know, when you watch your film, you think, so what that climate change should be about, and you know, and it really raises a value of sort of, you know, humanistic value that we need to bring into our education systems. So thank you very much, and I think you know, it really sort of brings another view on the nuclear testing in the region, in Central Asia region, by watching your film. Thank you.
So, 彼は、so you're from UNESCO. I see you worked for UNESCO as well before. So you're working for UNESCO office in Kazakhstan? So I'm asking this question to the person who just asked this question. Anyway,
Norbert?
Novik, are you working for UNESCO office in Kazakhstan?
Yes. I work as education specialist in Almaty regional office of
Almaty, okay.
UNESCO.
Okay,
So we're developing climate change education manual for teachers, and I think it's very timely that we actually bringing. It's not just talking about nuclear testing, but it's also bringing the science into it. You know, the ladies, I forgot the name. I think it was Dr. Rice who was in charge of, and her spouse, who were in charge of that research. And they actually committed themselves to be activists and the researchers. And I think partly that's what we're missing in the region. But you know, but your film again brings a value of activism. Sometimes you know, you have you know, I remember in your film you actually said that they were accused of communism. So, and I know what it means in the U.S. when you're accused of, you know, bringing that threat of communism. So you are enemy number one for the society. So I think it's pretty much, it would be pretty much the same in the region if such research would be brought up in our region, you know, after Semipalatinsk testing.
彼は、中央アジアの、ユネスコのアルマティオフィスというところで働いていて、で、ロシアは450回のテストをしたと言ってました。それで、この映画を見て怖くなりましたということで、普段考えてないけれども怖くなったということで、それで、っていうのは、プルームですかが、太平洋からアメリカにあんなにこう何千マイルも行くのだったら、じゃあ自分たちは普段何も考えてなかったけれども、こんなに近くに住んでる自分たちはもっとソ連時代に起きたテストの影響がこの地域に残ってるんじゃないかということがまず気になりましたということで、今は気候変動の先生のマニュアルを作ったりしてますが、サイエンス、科学っていうことをそのマニュアルの中に入れていって、その教育システムの中に入れ込んでいかないといけないなというふうに感じましたということです。
なるほどね。ちなみにロシアの、核実験の影響や、それからチェルノブイリですね。それについては、日本の政府の機関である気象研究所や気象台が、1957年から測定を続けてますけども、例えばチェルノブイリの事故の時は、とてつもなく高い放射線を、日本で記録しています。で、日本列島はロシアの核実験によって、1950年代から高濃度に放射能汚染している。これは政府データできちんと各地のデータが残っています。ですから、センパラチンス、カザフスタンもちろんそれは爆心地ですから、もうひどいし、それからヨーロッパの、放射能汚染というのは、ロシアの放射能汚染というのは、これは非常に深刻な状況があると思います。
And he knows that in Japan, the meteorological agency has been monitoring the radiation, radiation in the atmosphere. And then after Chernobyl was exploded, the Japan's meteorological agency recorded extremely high level of radiation in Japan. So he really believes the Central Asia and Europe has been highly contaminated by radiation.
一つ、ちなみに、これ地質学上、世界的にもう認識されてますが、1953年の、地層ですね。海底の層にプルトニウムが、見つかっています。で、これは世界中の、海洋の、地層、1953年に、プルトニウムがマーキングしているという、ことがあります。ですから、世界中が放射能で、汚染をしたということは、科学的にも明らかになっている。ですから、この放射能による環境汚染というのは CO2 よりももっと深刻で、もっと緊急性があるので、早くこのことを解決していかなければならないと思っています。
So he emphasizes that under the water, plutonium was already recorded in 1953, as early as 1953. So he really thinks that radiation pollution is more serious than CO2 emission. So as an environmental problem. And we need to react to this issue as soon as possible.
今、CO2 が最優先なので、原子力というのが、CO2 の代わりにどんどん今増えてます。で、今、マイクロソフトは、大事故が起こった3マイルの原発を、稼働させることを決めました。20年間、電気をそこから供給します。それからアマゾンは、可搬型の小型原子炉というのが開発されているんですけども、小型原子炉を使って AI の足りない部分を補充することを決めました。これから AI 化が進んでいく、それから CO2 を下げるために原発がどんどん世界中に生まれていきます。 大変な危険な状況が、危機的な状況がこの地球上に進み始めているということになります。
But he also found that Microsoft has decided to reopen the 3 Mile nuclear power plant after 20 years. And then Amazon also decided to establish a small-scale nuclear power in order to support the AI system. So right now, because all the environmentalists are concerned about CO2, and reduction of CO2 can be replaced by the promotion of nuclear power plants. So that's what he thinks a dangerous shift. And he thinks the radiation should be the higher priority as an environmental problem.
Yes, and we should be also, there should be a lot more information and also in schools and universities, I think, on how to protect yourself from the radiation pollution, or if there's anything that you can do to reduce your exposure to radiation pollution. And it's really non-existent. And so many people have been exposed, and as you show in the movie so strikingly, the effects are transmitted generation to generation. So even if this happened years ago, it could be still affecting us and the people that come after us. I don't know if he wants to say anything about that before we continue. There's, I think, one more question.
そう今、エドアナが言ったのは、学校や大学などでこういった放射能に、さらされていること、さらされるのをどうやって減らすことができる、学校でどういうふうに教えていったらいいですか、減らすためには。
ぜひ、サイレントフォールアウトを見てもらってください。
Please watch Silent Fallout.
Yes, if you haven't seen the movie, please see it. It's such an important subject, and please also help us to distribute the movie, to get it seen all around the world and discussed. I really wish we had more time, because there's so many more questions I think that maybe people have, and such an important subject. There is one more question here that I'd like to include. How can we propagate or establish the equilibrium of peace and cooperation via community radio or documentaries? That's a
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
how can we propagate or establish the equilibrium of peace and cooperation via community radio or documentaries?
どうやって平和とバランスをとっていったらいいですかっていうことなんですが、まあそこまでお話を。
はい。まずこれは、世界で最も最初に原子爆弾を作ったのはアメリカです。
First, the country which produced the atomic bomb is the US.
このアメリカで、その核の問題について考えていこうというきっかけを作るということが、非常に大切だと思っています。
He thinks to start a discussion in the country which created the atomic bomb for the first time in the world.
ただ、この、アメリカが軍事産業によって成り立っているということについては、政治的に民主党だとしても、共和党だとしても、同じような路線が続いていく可能性は非常に高いと考えています。
So he thinks that because American economy is based on military industry, so even if the government changes, Democrats or Republican, the same trend will continue.
そのことによって、非常に大切なことは、メディアが、そのことに対してどうアプローチしていくのかということに、すごく重要なポイントがあると思っています。
So he thinks media will play a very important role to change the course.
ただ、このメディアについても、そして議会についても、変えていく力を持っているのは世論です。
But change in media or the government, it's up to the public opinion.
それはパワフルな人ではなく、1960年代に、女性たちが行動を起こしたという奇跡の事実がこのアメリカにあるということが、全てを表していると僕は思っています。
He thinks it doesn't have to be really powerful people, but there is a fact in the US that in the 60s, the women, the ordinary women, created a miracle to inform about this. They stopped the atmospheric bomb, the testing. He thinks that that's the miracle that ordinary women created.
僕はアメリカはできると思っています。
He thinks Americans do realize this miracle again.
それは歴史的にアメリカの人たちがやったことだからです。
Because the history proved it.
教育の世界で言うと、先生たち一人一人が諦めないで平和に向けて、自分たちができる努力をしていく。そして、事実を伝えていくということが、全てだと僕は思っています。
He thinks each individual teachers will teach the facts to their students, and each teacher has to think about what they can do. So that's all they can do, he thinks.
Thank you so much, Hideaki. Thank you so much, Akemi. Thank you so much for everybody who joined and anybody who watches this later. Please consider this subject as a very important one in your work, and please help us to distribute this movie as widely as possible to help raise awareness for this. And I would also like to invite everyone to see the other movie that we selected for this month's Festivalette. It's called Regenerating Life by John Feldman. We have an environmental theme this month. And this movie also is quite fascinating in helping us kind of shift our ideas of what is needed in terms of climate change. So I think they both complement each other. And Akemi, Hideaki, if you'd like to join us as well as guests for our session, it's on November 8th, a Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time, which is an hour earlier for me. I have to remember that. I will not be late. Thank you, everyone. And
can I say one more thing? Because Mr. Ito made this film getting a lot of personal debt. So whatever you can donate, I just sent the link here. There's a donation link. Small amount, any amount is appreciated, and then he wants to continue, and then he has a plan to create another film as well, but it all depends on the financial support from many people who are concerned about the future.
Congratulations on this movie, and thank you, Akemi, for helping to promote it and bringing this movie to us again. Bye, everyone.
It was very nice meeting all the people. Thank you very much for your participation. It was nice to see UNESCO colleague as well.
Goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.